All right.
Amazing how that happens, right? Okay, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you do not have the flyers, then they're back there by Cheryl. There should be 3 different flyers that you should grab from 3 different stacks. We're going to go ahead and get started. I know Sean has a busy day today, so we'll get him going on this. This is Sean Banks. Sean Banks is the Chief Title Officer for Coppell. He is all things FinCEN. He has been dealing with this, diving into this for a while.
Yeah.
6, 8 months, whatever it's been. Want to just again remind you that this is a 2-sided form. This is a form that has the meeting for tomorrow and for the 14th, so next week. So if you wanted to take your clients, if you wanted to go again, this is the collaboration one with almost all of the title companies in the Kansas City area. So this is the first time in my 30+ years that I've ever seen title companies collaborate on a level like this. So it just kind of points out how extremely important this is to understand, grasp, etc. There's also a flyer that talks about FinCEN, things you need to know. That has 2-sided also. It's a flow chart. And then just information notice for transactions. So all of the things that Sean, I'm sure, will go over, but I just wanted to point out that you have those on your desk and that they are some of them 2-sided. Okay? Sean,
All right.
thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so probably the biggest thing for this is this will affect everybody as far as you want to make sure that when we have transactions that are involved with this, that you guys get as much information as you can right off the jump so it doesn't delay anything. That would be the biggest thing for you all, I would say. Kind of just give you a little background. This has been in plants for a while. They actually have been testing this for quite a few years in select markets. Their main thing is going after anybody that is money laundering, any sort of. It's basically all about the AML, which is anti-money laundering. And what they realized was in these test markets that about 40-ish% was on people's hit list. That was an issue. So at that point, once they got all that data, they decided to roll it out nationwide. So that's kind of why we're dealing with it at this point. Um, just to give you a little, I'll try to go over everything you guys need to know. And then they had changed the compliance date. It was supposed to be December 1st. They bumped it back 3 months. They were getting a lot of pushback from some smaller entities, attorneys, that sort of thing, because there's a lot of other states that, attorneys are doing title work and that sort of thing. So because of all the pushback, they did push it back 30 or 90 days. But I don't think it's moving from there. I think this is pretty much where it's going to stand. And really, part of the reason why we're doing this training now, part of why all of this is happening in the next few weeks is because our idea is anything, a lot of times you all will get stuff that's within 45 days. And because of that, we're approaching that. We're about the 15th of January. We'd have to start worrying about this and start thinking about it all. So that's kind of a starter. Um, okay, so why this matters, I kind of talked about it a little bit. It's a federal anti-money laundering rule. Um, this is targeting cash and non-finance transactions, and it's going to focus on entity and trust ownership. So the big thing is the ones that are going to be reportable the most for you are cash transactions that involve a buyer that is a trust, LLC, corporation, anything like that. There are some things to get around it, but not easily. They're very, very descriptive on what they need to try to avoid it. So this is going to affect, like for us, it'll affect builders, that sort of thing, when you have like lot sales, and it basically affects any residential property or anything that might become residential property. So say you have a piece of ground that they might put apartments on later, that affects. Um, it doesn't really affect commercial at this point, but I imagine that's probably just coming down the pipe, to be honest. Even mixed use, say you have, I'll give you an idea of like something in Lee Summit that's happening. Say that area where they're building like Costco and all that, and then they're going to put apartments there. Well, it's mixed use. So in the future, that would be reportable. All right. So we've kind of been waiting for this. There was a final rule issued. They kind of been, they've been playing with it a little bit. They've been modifying and amending it. Um, Once again, as we said, the compliance date starts March 1st, and preparation should begin now because obviously we're at that 45 to 60-day point. Um, as far as the rule goes, we are getting directives from all of our underwriters. We have four with our company. They've kind of been sending out stuff weekly on this at this point. I was telling Lisa that I have 3 webinars this week that are just about FinCEN stuff from 3 different underwriters. So everybody's really working on this, and this has kind of ruled our life the last couple months. But um, so once again, like I said, it's over residential property, and that can be single, I-4, or it can also be, apartments, townhouses, that sort of thing. Um, Once again, it's non-finance or cash purchases. And that would be, like I said, the buyer is either got to be an entity or a trust. Some of the other things that this might also affect that not everybody's thinking about is, say you have a buyer that he's going to take title to it individually, and then they want to put it into a trust or a company later. Well, that becomes an issue at that point because once that happens, and that becomes reportable. So it's kind of one of those things where you're really going to kind of have to help your buyers with how they're wanting to do things right off the bat, because any of that stuff, it can things that become reportable even after your transaction. So
How far after the transaction?
whenever they do it.
Infinitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So before they used to have a couple of stipulations, like in their test areas, they had price amounts. So they had transaction amounts. So like anything, it had to be over a certain amount. They have gotten rid of all of that. They're basically doing on anything. So I think before it was like 300,000 most places before they would report it, and then for whatever reason in Baltimore it was 50,000. But they've abolished all that. We don't think they're going to change that at this point. So it's literally going to be on anything. Sure.
Unfinanced, that still is going to include hard money lender.
Correct.
That's where people get a little.
Yeah, so it's a little confusing. So if you have somebody that's using a lender that's like an NMLS lender, are you guys familiar with that? So so anything that has an MLS ID number is going to be federal. That will be fine because they've already done the anti-money laundering stuff. If they do not have that, then it will become reportable. So any like local thing that would be considered a hard money lender, yes, those are reportable as well. Yeah, sure.
Back to this trust thing.
Sure.
So if we have a client that they buy the house as individuals,
Mhm.
deed work goes through, and then they want to go to their attorney and for their own protection and get it put into the trust,
Mhm.
that's a problem?
Yeah, the attorney would have to report it at that point.
Do they not report it now?
So so there are some things, like I said, there are some things that they're trying to say that will be exempt from this. That is one that's on the table. Um, and I think the corporation thing will become, could potentially become exempt too, as long as they can prove that's the members that are putting it in there and all that sort of thing. But right now it's a little foggy for us because they haven't determined exactly what they're going to be okay with and what they've given us some direction. And you guys will have that in some of your handouts. It'll kind of say some of that. But I will tell you, Lisa can give you my email. Any information you guys need, I will give you whatever I've got. So if there's anything that you guys have a specific question on, let me know and I will get an answer for you. All right.
So I have a question.
Sure.
Somebody that's buying a property and they're buying it as a trust and they're cash buyers, they just basically buy it into the trust, just buy it as the trust.
Correct.
Does that get flagged or are there
Yes.
just special forms that they have to fill out or what?
Yeah. So basically what's going to happen whenever one of these are reportable, there is a form that the government has sent out that unfortunately for us has buyer and seller information on it. So we are trying to figure out, I think we've got a couple of solutions we're looking into as far as how this is going to happen without going into like a lot of logistics of how we're going to do it. Um, we're going to have a portal for them to go through and they are going to fill out their side. That is the ideal thing what we're wanting. And what we're trying to get all of our technology groups to understand is we can't have them seeing everybody's stuff. So, and like I said, I don't know why the government decided to do that because originally it was 2 forms. And the final form that they've put out is 1. So it has buyer and seller info on there. So what we're hoping is that somebody's going to be able to capture it from each side, then be able just to put it on the form and then allow us to report it to the government. Kind of what we're looking at right now. 4.
To capture it, turn it over.
So with something like that, we will send that out. Our plan is to send it out immediately after we get the contract and the order input. And so here's a few issues with that. We cannot fill it out. We cannot do anything to fill it out. We can't really help that much. There is liability issues with that. So we're trying to find a solution that'll kind of walk everybody through it instead of just giving them the form and say, hey, fill this out. So the form is 111 points. It is very tedious. It is asking for very specific things, bank accounts, socials, all that good stuff. So it is it's pretty time consuming. I would say it's probably going to take someone a little bit to fill out, but unfortunately, the bottom line is if it doesn't get filled out, we can't close. Hmm. Potentially, and that's why we're trying to be ahead of it. That's why we're trying to send it out immediately to everyone, so that way you have plenty of time. Something that's closing really fast, I think that would probably be the thing that you would want to educate your people on the most. Say, hey, if you're doing this, you've got to fill this out immediately because we're going to need it all. Yeah, go ahead.
So once you have one, can you keep it on file or do they have to do it?
Every single transaction. So like with us, for us that have a developer or builder, they have to fill one out every time.
That's their LLC, cash buyer in a house. Can't just close in 2 weeks like you could.
It's possible, but it's going to be one of those things where you're going to have lots of communication with them as far as telling them to get the stuff done. Yeah.
They start filling out as soon as you start looking. But they have to be under
They have to be under contract. Yeah.
contract. Certainly.
Yeah, and this will be on buyer and seller side. So the buyer side's way more entailed. The seller side, they still have to fill something out too. So basically your seller will be triggered by who buys it. So if you have an LLC, a trust or anything like that, then being on the seller side of the transaction, you will have to worry about it. So it affects everyone, honestly. Um,
Us helping or assisting in any manner and the liability to that. The liability falls on anyone entitled that gives anything that the government could construe as advice or direction. And that is on a civil and criminal level. So it's not by company, it's by somebody coming saying, Lisa, you gave information that guided someone, and now we can civilly and criminally.
and it's about a $1,200 fine per event, I believe. And then criminally, it's like up to 5 years in jails, 250,000. And that is not on the company, that is on the individual.
Other than the tedious paperwork and all of that,
Mhm.
what are the implications of it being reported?
So they really haven't given anybody a choice. I mean, if you fall under this, it has to be reported.
If it's reported, what
Mhm.
goes?
So basically there's a portal they have done. So we've got to log in, we've got all that stuff. So until it goes live, it's kind of hard for us to say how it's going to work. From what we understand, once we retrieve the forms, we will put it in our system. We have to keep record of all of it, just like everything else we do. But we will go to that site. I think the way this is going to work right now, we're going to designate someone to do that. We basically have a compliance team within our company that will look at anything that they have questions about. So there's 3 of us that are going to do that. Before it actually gets sent off to get
I
reported.
guess, what are the ramifications for the client, the buyer, seller?
You mean like if they don't fill it out, or?
Well, if it gets, they fill it all out, it gets
Mhm.
reported, what are the ramifications for that person?
They haven't really explained that. I mean, not that that's to anyone's surprise, but they basically, like I said, I think if they wouldn't have got such a high hit rate on the test markets, we probably wouldn't be in this position, but they did. Yeah.
So if they, need help filling it out and you guys can't help them, do they need to hire a, real estate attorney to help them fill that out?
So we're a little unclear on that. Most of this stuff is just fill in the blank stuff. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Like, hey, we need all your bank accounts. Hey, I mean, it's that straightforward, but that's really what the kind of stuff they're asking for. And, a lot of it's general information. A lot of it's, once it gets to like the company level, they're asking about members. They're asking about percentage of ownership. They're asking about those sort of things. So it kind of just depends on which place you fall in as far as if all of those are going to pertain or not. But that's kind of, yeah, go ahead.
So if you have, a property you're selling that's in a trust and you have a cash buyer, but they're not buying it in a trust, do both of them If you're a cash buyer and you're just a cash buyer, not,
That would not be reportable.
it will, so you don't have to fill out all those forms if you're
Correct.
just a cash buyer.
Correct. It's, yeah, individual.
Fire, LLC, corporation, trust, that's where things get triggered.
Okay.
Cash buyer, that is not an individual. That's where this whole thing is triggered. That's step one.
That is the whole thing. So, I mean, I think at this point, you all will know pretty quick if you're going to need to do it, just because of whoever's a buyer. And, you know, or you might have unique situations, even if you have a trust or an LLC that's buying, you know, or even if you have any, like them that are buying, even if it's not cash, I would still look and see who their lender is. Because if it's one of those deals where it's a hard money lender, that's going to be reportable too. So that's probably going to be the most important thing for agents at this point, is to be able to identify it right off the gate. That's what we're going to do too. Once we get something, that's going to be our first thing we need to do, is identify it.
And one thing I'll point out too, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Mhm.
is if you have a cash buyer that is a trust, is an LLC, is a corporation, and they're able to fill these out and account for where their money came from, this is.
It's not an issue.
It's with the government. It's more.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think everybody's worried about the fact that, oh my gosh, now it's just the fact that it's a trust or an LLC buyer or a corporation buyer. It's if they can determine where that money came from. If the government can determine where that money came from,
It's not an
which
issue.
is easy to buy,
Yeah.
that's fine. It's when they can't. For instance, people that are money laundering can't just.
Yeah, I mean, in general, in theory, this is to catch criminals. So if everybody's on the up and up, it's not an issue. It's just, you know, it's just more paperwork. Yeah, they can, I believe the website's like FinCEN.gov or something, but I will look it up and send it to Lisa so you all have it. Yes.
FinCEN database that all
Yes.
accounts in
Mhm.
with social security numbers and bank accounts.
Mhm.
What do we need to be concerned with on somebody hacking into that and having a whole nother source of fraud?
Well, I mean, it's a government portal. That's all I got. Yeah, and think about, if you all think about it, 95% at least of your all's transactions, we already have that stuff, right? So I think in the grand scheme of things, I understand what you're saying, but also that's basically, in a perfect world, they already have all this information. They're just wanting it on each transaction. So.
Like a foreclosure, if I had put that in an LLC.
So at that point, technically it's reportable.
Why would that?
So say if you guys are investors and you have this sort of thing, I would say that we know a lot of people that are around that can probably help you with that process, but it's something you have to think about, because if you don't file something, say, you know, and I know a lot of agents that I know, you know, have their own LLCs and buy properties and all that sort of thing. I mean, the thing about it is we can help walk you through some of that stuff. As far as, you know, if we don't have an actual transaction, that's a different thing, but we can lead you the way. We can lead you the way.
I think we have about 4 little slides, so maybe we'll make these slides.
I gotta figure. This is what. So I went to a place. This was a couple months ago. I went to a block downtown, and it was mostly commercial. They had some residential stuff, and everybody started freaking out. I mean, immediately, because they hadn't really heard about any of this stuff. So I think now we're to the point where everybody's at least heard of it a little bit and has a little bit of an idea what's going on. hopefully that's exactly what she was talking about with the collaboration with the other companies. That's why we're doing that. That this tomorrow and next Wednesday will be the second and third things we've done. We've actually done, we did one in Kansas a couple months ago. Um, I know the KCRAR had something that was a Zoom thing that I think was done by one company I heard about. But you know, that's kind of why we're all collaborating, because there's a lot of stuff with this for us involved too, because we all kind of know we have to do it. So somebody can't get mad and say, hey, we're just going to go somewhere else because they don't have to do it there. It's not true. You're going to have to do it wherever you go. So, and I think that's why, you know, we've all decided to kind of work together and just try to figure out the best solution, you know. And the thing about it is, with our underwriters too, we a lot of us have the same underwriters, so we are all trying to, you know, get the best solution for us. Like I was telling Lisa, I saw something today that I just got today, an email from one of our underwriters where they're going to have a service that reports, which that sounds amazing, you know, if they take some of that liability for reporting. But we don't know if that's going to be the case. So I have a webinar on that next week. So that's kind of the stuff we're dealing with, trying to figure all this stuff out. Okay, so transactions that we don't have to worry about, individual buyers, traditional mortgage finance deals. So that's, you know, Bank of America, whatever. And then, like I said, there's certain exempt entities. They are very specific. I think there's 5 to 10 things like that they can be an exempt situation. That's with that or a trust. And I believe on the handout, the two-sided handout with the flow chart, I believe it has some of those exemptions on there. All right, who files the report? So this kind of goes back to your question. Title agents, we will file this. Settlement escrow agents or closing attorneys. And I think this is one of the things, you know, we're hoping that you all help us identify this, because what we don't want to happen is the day of closing, something changes and says, well, now they're going through this hard money lender, and now it all becomes reportable, because that can happen. That can be a thing. So I would say just try to be on top of it as much as you can. If you think there's any inkling that it might happen, I'd probably just prepare your people for it.
Be very careful when you're writing contracts, that you talk to your buyers and you determine how they want to take title. Because it is sure a lot easier, as Sean's pointing out, to have that done at the time the contract is written than trying to deal with it.
Yeah, and I mean, and right now, I mean, we have that all the time. We have somebody that they'll be under contract as individuals and they say, oh, hey, we got a trust, we're gonna put it in there. Which normally before this has been fine, not a big deal. But now with all this, it will make it a big deal. Unfortunately. I think they estimated it's going to take us title agent wise. I think they said it was going to be another 2.5 to 3 hours a transaction for us. That's just for our end. That's not counting anybody else involved.
Like closing costs are going up.
They're yeah. I will tell you, we are all collaborating. All the title companies are collaborating. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing for everybody, because we're all kind of pulling back the curtains and saying, hey, we all know we have to charge something extra for this because it's more work for us. It's more stuff for us. So what are we going to do? And I just saw an email about that earlier. So that's the thing. I think, like I said, everybody's playing nice right now. So we'll see how long that lasts. But at this point, that's the way it's at. Okay, so information required on these reports. Property and transaction details, you know, they'll ask for property address. You know, I can't remember. I haven't looked at the final thing in a while. I don't think it gets too much more involved in that. You know, I don't think they're asking for like legal description or parcel number or anything. What we're trying to do with these companies that we're going to have kind of do the portal for us, what we're trying to do is trying to transfer some of that information straight onto it so they don't have to worry about it. So, like I said, we've got an AI product that we're talking to that had everything nice and it was prompts. They wouldn't let them go past it if they didn't fill it out right, which is another thing that we're trying to figure out. Because that way, if they can't go past it, they gotta answer it. So that's something else that we've been trying to get with them on. And as far as the final form didn't come out till December, so not everybody even had the final form. So yeah, so property transaction details, entity or trust buyer info. Like I said, they're going to ask stuff as percentage of memberships, what kind of corp, all that sort of stuff. And then beneficial owner details, which is more of that stuff. All right. So for us and you all, I would say responsibilities as far as we go, going to try to identify entity or trust buyers early. Want to coordinate that with us. And hopefully, if you all don't catch it, we're going to catch it. And then, educate your us clients about the requirements that are coming. That's probably the biggest thing because and I know you're going to get probably lots of people that are not going to want to divulge all of that stuff. So, unfortunately, there's not really too many ways to get around it. So, all right. And I think for this, this is kind of a situation. We've kind of touched over all this, but kind of explained why the information is required. I haven't really went into a big, huge history about this, but I've got it if you need it. And I can provide that stuff to you all. I'd just with your clients, I would just tell them, it's kind of the essence that we get all this stuff done early, so that way we're not delaying anything. And just reinforce that it's a federal thing, and there's really none of us can do anything about it. So here we go. Just a few examples. Kind of talked about all this, but we'll go over it again. So cash purchase, LLCs buying, that is reportable. Any individual buyer, not reportable. And then anything purchased by a trust, reportable. I think, just it seems basic, but just making it that basic will kind of put you in the forefront to know immediately what we're going to be dealing with when we're going forward.
Not just cash LLC, cash corporation, partnership.
Yeah.
All of those.
It's basically the only thing that we're a little unsure about is IRAs. I've asked that, and nobody can give me an answer yet. And I actually asked Fidelity and Westcore, which are two of our underwriters, and neither one could give me a definitive answer. So I have a webinar tomorrow with Fidelity. I'm going to ask again. Yeah.
On the LLCs, are they distinguishing between a sole proprietor LLC and a
Well,
person LLC?
Yeah, they don't distinguish. I mean, if it's an LLC, it's an LLC to them. So, and like I said, they'll ask about percentages and all that stuff in that form. So they'll have to fill that out. And I think there is some exemption, I believe, that talks about percentages in a corp or LLC, like if they only own a certain amount or something. I think it exempts them out. I can't remember exactly what that. I think it's 25%. It's less than 25. Yeah.
See purchasing that is getting a bank loan, not to a bank.
Or cash.
Not just
Or cash. If it's either going to be or cash or a hard money lender that is going to trigger this, right? So if it's an individual buyer, see, that's the thing. I'm wondering if I still don't think it matters. Anything as far as an LLC or a trust, if it's cash or if it's a hard money lender, just 100% it's going to be reportable. 100%.
Bonnie's question was if I'm borrowing the money from Country Club Bank.
Are they hard money?
LLC.
If they are not approved by NMLS, it's going to be reportable. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Normal.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of them are, right? But I know Some of your local ones are not.
So what I'm understanding is then that there's a form that as the cash buyer, I need to fill out.
Mhm.
And then I need to get it to you and then you need to file it.
And also it'll be, there will be some need to be filled out by the seller as well.
And the seller as well,
Mhm.
but we're not waiting for some government agency to approve it.
No,
They can just pull it and review it at any time
Correct.
down the road.
correct. We just have to report.
And it's probably not going to be a form to fill out. It's going to be an online portal.
Okay.
That's what we're trying. That's what we're trying. We're trying to make it as easy as we can.
Right.
That is the idea. Mhm. Yeah. So like I said, we're looking at two different options right now. One option is like, it's, you guys probably won't be familiar, but it's closing software we use that actually helps us with wire fraud. So they're doing a situation to where it's going to be through DocuSign. They have their own sort of DocuSign. So they have it to where they will put the form out there. Once I brought up the new form and said, hey, sellers and buyers stuff are on the same form, they're trying to figure that out. The other one is with our AI platform we use. And they have prompts, have it beautiful, have it nice. But once again, they did not have the form. They had an old ALTA form, which is American Land Title Association. They had made their own form until we got the final one. So it is all done through that form. So right now they are trying to determine if we can use that form to report. Because if we can, that's a way better solution for us. Just because it prompts and doesn't let them go past a certain point if they don't fill it out and that sort of thing. So it actually makes it it's way more user friendly and a little bit easier for them. So that is that is through Alana. Mhm. Closing lock is the other one that we've looked at. And if they can extrapolate everything, buyer and seller separated, that'd be fine. But when we looked at it initially, they didn't have the right form. So, okay, cool. And then, the closing software we use, SoftPro, they're supposed to be coming up with something, but we have not seen it yet. So that's why we're trying to be proactive with everybody else. Someone have a question in the back?
Things. So when I present my seller, before I accept this offer from this trust company, I'm gonna have to explain to them, there will be additional forms that you have to deal with. That other agent telling their people.
Correct. And it's not nearly as exhaustive as the buyer side of the situation. But in essence, the thing to think about, the buyer triggers it. The buyer's always going to trigger it. So if the buyer triggers it, that means the seller has to fill it out.
But it's things like the bank account information, stuff like that.
Mhm. Yeah, but it's not as exhaustive. It doesn't have nearly as many.
Question, but on the same form, how is that information, the seller's information, all that kind of stuff, like how is?
That's why we're trying to figure that out.
That's
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole non-personal information. Like, yeah, it's a problem. So once,
cash buyer, it's like, I don't know, that would.
I mean, it's possible. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it past anyone, right? You might get a situation where the seller's like, hey, I don't want to have to divulge all that stuff. I mean, it's possible. Can't ever rule that out.
Just as someone else pointed out, the other agent on the other side of the transaction, if it's a seller or a buyer side, whatever, they might not have this information. Even though you're having to tell your clients this information and they may not like it, you're educating them, you're at least giving them that information so that it's not at the time of closing or coming up to the time of closing and they're like, we had no idea, we would have done something different. Because if a contract cancels, again, correct me if this has changed, if a contract cancels and it falls into the recording situation, we still are liable to report.
Uh-huh.
If it changes from what you originally wrote it as maybe LLC and it's potential that we still have to report that. So that's why it's so important that you get up front, you get with your buyers and make sure that they are taking title the way they want to take title. Because it still may end up being reported.
Yeah, because at this point, since it's the abyss of the unknown, right? We are not sure how they're going to enforce anything. We're not sure of any of that stuff. So we're going to do everything that we think we're supposed to do, even if that goes out of the bounds of, even if it's on the line and we don't know, we're probably going to do it. Just because, like I said, there's criminal, civil stuff. I mean, of course, all the underwriters, tried to scare us and tell us all that. But, the bad thing about it is there is a hierarchy of how it falls down, and it goes, there's basically a list of people that are responsible for it, and it's like closing agent, title person, recording person, person that reported it. Like it just goes down that. So that's why I'm saying it's on an individual level instead of a company level. So even Kauffeld's kind of like, if you're looking on it from that perspective, it's more on the individuals than the company itself. So
Am I being naive to say that if we just make this standard practice, like when we addressed the August 2024 changes in commissions and all that, like when I talk about, just say it and it's just what it is. Isn't it 99% how you present it? Yeah, this is a form we have to do. Or is that just naive on my part? Like
it's not naive.
like face paint or whatever. It's like you just fill it
Yeah.
out.
So I will tell you that title companies have talked to KCRAR about adding it to the contract language because exactly of this. And yeah, I know that people have talked to them about that just to make it to where it's in black and white. So you guys don't have any repercussions if somebody tries to fight you on it. Say, hey, it's part of the deal now. So I think that's obviously something that probably should be addressed by you all because it's going to come better from you all than us. But that is definitely something that should be addressed.
If we don't back into it, well, I'm sorry, you got to fill this out. No, it's just like, this is one of the things you fill out.
Yeah.
It just is.
Depends on what information they're asking the seller that would make them uncomfortable would be the only pushback.
I will send the link to the form to Lisa, the actual form, so you all can see what it is. Because like I said, they just came out, like it didn't get posted till I think December 10th. So nobody had it. And everybody had already started, like closing lock and they'd already started working on all this prior. So I have a Zoom meeting with them and I say, hey, do you guys have the new form? They're like, what new form? No idea. So that's what I'm saying. I've been living and breathing this stuff for a while. But that's part of it. I mean, we're trying to make it as easy as we can for everyone, not just, that's the thing about it because we don't, at the end of the day, we don't want anybody mad because something gets delayed. And it doesn't matter whose fault it is. If it's just going to be all our faults if it gets delayed, right? So, I mean, that's what we're trying to make it as easy and painless as possible. But fortunately, unfortunately, every other company's having to do this. So, every one of us are having to do this. All the agents are going to have to do it. So that's why we've been so proactive in trying to get folks to come to these things so they know kind of what's going on. It's beautiful for you all because I have this platform, but I know that tomorrow and next Wednesday there's a panel of different companies represented. So, but like I said, they might have a little bit different solutions. I know, I can speak for one company, and I don't want to say anything negative, but they've basically said that if they're going to send out something immediately once they get the contract, and if they don't fill it out, they will tell them immediately they're not closing. So, and I mean, it's kind of to that point where it's kind of an issue. It's an issue. It's a liability issue for us. So.
I can see where you have a corporation like Home Investors and stuff like this could be huge headache. They're buying for cash.
Yeah, I mean, think about any big developer.
You get, somebody like us who's, maybe buying 5 or 6 houses a year for cash, right?
Mhm.
I mean, my workaround on this is I just buy it in my individual name, and as soon as I close, I quit claim it back into my LLC.
Which would be great, except that becomes reportable.
Ah, damn it.
You still have to do the information.
So might as well just.
I mean, that's, and, nope.
Whoever buys it and then an LLC is.
Oh.
next-
So, and here's another thing that you guys probably aren't thinking about. So a lot of times we do courtesy stuff for you all, right? Like courtesy stuff where we'll put something in a trust. We'll put something in an LLC. Can't do it anymore.
Interject because we don't do that anymore.
Ah.
That stopped a couple of years ago because of this upcoming situation.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. It's one of those things where nobody's going to be able to do it. Like you're all going to have to go to like real estate attorneys. You're going to have to tell them to go to real estate attorneys to get it done. And then the attorneys have to report if they do it. So I'm sure they will charge a ton just to get a deed.
They put $150,000 down, get a conventional loan, put a large down payment down, and finance 25% of it on a conventional loan. They wouldn't have to do any of this, right?
Are they individuals?
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're individuals, they're fine.
So versus to get underneath their LLC, but they're putting it as a conventional loan versus paying cash. But they're only financing like 50,000.
Yeah, as long as it's through a good lender. Yeah.
So that's the way we basically tells them to do it. There's not a threshold in regards to the amount of the loan.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. They, like I said, they had thresholds before and they got rid of them.
It's not like
There's no threshold now. It's $1.
put down as much cash as you want on a house. As long as it goes through.
There's a lot of
Certain
this.
amount of time as far as the payoff flag, like if people thought they were being clever and did that, just paid off the loan in a month.
At this point, I haven't heard of anything like that. Because, I mean, that's the thing. Like, they're not going to tell us how to circumvent it, right?
The question is, why do you need one?
But here's the thing, also, if you're going,
It's the government.
that lender is also doing all of this.
Yeah, that's
stuff. So
the whole thing.
don't it's just that it's done differently because you've done it by loan application versus.
Right. And that's the whole thing. Now, the bad part about it is, they're getting it either way. I mean, they're going to get it either from the lender or from this situation. It's not really going to matter.
If an individual buys a house for cash
Mhm.
and not claims it, like Tom said, and then turns around and sells it as that individual, is there any reporting that's required? It's only if, so a cash individual is fine,
Mhm.
right? And a cash sale is fine.
If are they selling it to an LLC or a trust or a corp?
Well, let's assume it's an individual.
Yeah, then it would be fine.
There's no FinCEN.
There's no FinCEN stuff. Yeah.
It could be an IRS, but no FinCEN.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got. Yeah,
I do want
that's
to
it.
talk about, we talked about this just a little bit in another meeting. Sometimes buyers, overshare at closing. And what I'm referring to is if they're buying cash and somebody at closing tells me, oh, they got a loan from hard money lender and they just gave me the money. And, so there could be issues in regards to how people disclose things at closing.
Correct.
That then requires me to have to report. I will be very cautious, but if it's something that I need to report, I'll report. I'm sure that you would all agree that nobody wants to go to jail or be fined.
Of course.
But my point being is that if you see things within closing change just a tad bit, about maybe how maybe a conversation is starting to go, and usually I'm very open in my closings and we chat and whatever. I might redirect that just because I don't want to get into a situation that someone disposes out something to me that I then have to dispose out.
Right.
Should we just tell our people at before closing?
Shut up.
Well, I mean,
Keep your mouth shut.
if you know something, you should be disclosing it.
Exactly.
So it's just, I'm just saying more upfront things. If people are starting to get kind of clever and try to, when you're talking to them about all of this FinCEN stuff, if they're trying to start to get clever and try to figure out a way around it, and they start talking to you about that, you know, you might just, you know, kind of
Shut it down.
Yeah, let's not, you know, go down that road. Whatever that case may be. Because none of us want to be in that position. I mean, and we all, if something goes down on this, as Sean pointed out, it starts at the top and it just works its all the way down.
Oh yeah, it comes down. Yeah, I mean,
They never even talk to the client. They never
Right.
talk to the client, but everyone gets drug into this.
and the person reporting probably isn't going to talk to them. They're probably not going to know anybody.
But it's
Yeah.
just, I'm just saying, it's just, be safe for yourself too, you know? Always be right. Right, exactly.
Well,
And then
yeah.
you don't have to, there's nothing to worry about ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing I think with your all's clients is you will get some pushback because they don't want to fill it out. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. And I mean, who wants to fill out all that stuff, right? Like I get it, but that's probably, I can see that being the biggest hurdle. That's why I think it probably would be important to try to get it there right off the bat, so that way, you know, maybe it's a situation where, you know, the big real estate places decide that they're going to put that, you know, in your all's contracts or something. I mean, that might be a disclosure thing for them.
I wanted to I just want to circle back around. This is for cash buyers only that are not individuals. We just have to stay focused on that number one thing.
Or hard money. Yeah.
Well, they're
Hard money that's like an entity. Yep. Good.
Lag time. Say, you can't get them to fill it out. Do we have to fill it out at closing and then report it that day? Does it have to
It's
be-
probably not going to close if they don't fill it out till then.
But say it's a 7-day closing, they get it to be the day of the contract. Will close.
I think, and I'm not going to speak for everyone here, but I think that there's probably going to be some sort of grace period that we're going to need to make sure we get it done. Because the last thing we need is somebody to come to close and say, oh, I'm not filling all this out. And then you just say, well, you're not going to close. Have a nice day. And then everybody's met. So I'm sure there will be, you know, some sort of, hey, let's get this a couple days before at maximum. So that way we have it. So there, you know, there won't be any delays. They're going to have the same issue no matter who they go to, unless it's someone that we don't know. Because I mean, if you look at that list, there's a lot of smaller companies on there too, right? So I mean, that's the thing about it. We've kind of collaborated with everyone. So everybody kind of knows about it at this point. They really can't make any excuses and say, oh, we didn't know this is happening. And here's the thing. If we find out that somebody's doing that, we're going to turn them in. Because everybody will be against them at that point. So I just don't think it's going to happen. Anything else? Like I said, I'll send the link to Lisa so she can send out the form so you guys can actually see it.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you.
Now Brandy did put this on, or is going to put this on the KW site. So you can have the information as far as the reporting and that.
And we have a bunch of stuff on our website too.
Yes.
Good job.
Thank you.
You can tell. Oh, wait, what, we gotta do that now? Not like, dude, you're not putting some of the paperwork, why are,